Got us on a little early, I think, but we should be on over at North. We got about 10 minutes. You need to do it now? Let's some of these things private, you know.
Hey, John, what's this? That? This? Oh, yeah, I gotta go grab him. I need you to explain it. I gotta look. Oh. What's up, man? Yeah. I'm retired early on beat today. Is that? Oh, no. Oh. That's what that's for.
Transportation services.
Yeah. And that's not.
I like that shit. Oh.
What's this? Now, change what's this? Chicken? Rice? What up, son? Hey, son.
Got you? Okay. We got about 5 minutes, guys.
If I look over the video, come on. Let me go.
Let's see what this old clock in here says. About
I'm blacked out. No, I'm not motivated.
we're Brandon.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes.
There we
Now, you couldn't
So I
wait.
didn't bring anything with me.
So I could. I'm trying to do things the right way. Can you use your office?
Absolutely.
What is that?
Do I need to bring anything?
Yourself.
Yay.
Say mine.
They're gonna give me some money.
We got about a minute, a little more than a minute before we get started. It's gonna be a fun week. We're gonna do things fun this week. Have a good time this week.
She looks like. Huh?
Good morning. Oh, it's great. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm the one that does what they're supposed to do. Not me and you. It's just the two of us, man.
Just me and you?
Me and you.
Shit, we doing good then.
We're doing well, yeah. All right. Good morning, everybody. We are in group. There's a couple of things that we need to do, housekeeping wise. You know that you need to have your sign-in sheets signed in as they're going around. Make sure that we can read those things and all of that kind of stuff. You're supposed to have your book with you when you come to group, and I'm sure that everybody does. This week is about spirituality, and everything that we look at this week may not be, pertain completely and totally to spirituality, but we're going to connect a whole bunch of that together. So our goal for the day will be what?
Learn about spirituality.
Learn about spirituality. Try to make group real. Be in the moment. Practice some mindfulness in group. This is where I am right now and what I'm doing right now. So we're going to get everything that we can out of group today. And we may be doing a few things differently in the group this week just to make it a little bit, shake it up a little bit. But it's not going to be anything that's illegal or immoral or anything like that. So don't panic. So if you have your book today, remember to turn to it to page 21. If you don't have a book, then you need to let me know. If you're over at North and you don't have a book, then let your counselor know. My goal is that the day you come to treatment, you get a book. You should get this what we're going through. So the day you come to treatment, you should get a book. So no one should be starting treatment without having a book. So it's on page 21, right? Where we're starting every morning. So these 5 different things, they go from where I don't have any spiritual connection at all in my life to a place where I've got a good, solid spiritual connection in my life. And here's why this is important. It's important not because I'm trying to get you to be a part of the religion that I am. It's not important because Mr. Farmer wants you to be a part of the religion that he's bringing to us from California or anything like that. It's important because we need to have a higher power in our lives to help us into our recovery and then through our recovery. That's what we need to be doing. So this is why it's important. So if I don't have any spiritual connection whatsoever, I don't believe that there is a higher power other than myself. I'm it. I'm all. The universe circles around me, revolves around me. I'm the thing. Is that okay? If that's how you want to live, then I'm not the one to come tell you not to live that way. But being a Christian, being a pastor, and all of those things, I do have some information for you if you want to talk to me about it, because I do believe that there is a higher power, and I will tell you this: that a lot of the times in my life, that table there is a higher power than I am. Look, it didn't take me long to figure out. While I was in the midst of my addiction, I didn't have any power. I was powerless, and then I read the big book, and it agreed with it. So, So here's the first thing. If I don't have anything at all, then I'm unfamiliar. There's a lot of people in the world that's totally unfamiliar with anything spiritual or just unwilling. There's a lot of other people who are completely, totally, I don't want to hear that. I don't hear anything about it. I've had so many people tell me that. Okay. All right. Part of my job is going around my neighborhood and saying, hey, look, we'd like to have you come to church. Let me talk about God and all of this kind of stuff. And I've had people tell me just point blank, I don't have any interest in that at all. I'm just not interested. Get off my porch. Yeah. So what do I do at that point? Get off their porch. Yeah. So some people are like that, and it's okay. You at this point, you're not familiar with a spiritual life, or you have been unwilling to accept the existence of any type of spiritual matter. And look, here's the thing. My God has given everybody, and I believe He is the only God, but my God has given us free choice, free will. That's one of the hardest things in the world, because I have the free will to do what He tells me, which always turns out to be the best road, or I have the free will knowing that this is going, because I'm going to tell you, this whole group of people here and the ladies over at North that I know most of those ladies over there still, and I haven't found anybody that's not just really brilliant. Everybody in here, I've had a bunch of y'all in my office, and as I talk to you one-on-one, I can tell you guys are smart. You're brilliant. So we know when we go out of here and we go have a nice cold beer, we know that that's the road to perdition. We know that that's the road right back into our addiction. We know that that's, how many people believe that? A lot of people. But there's people who don't believe that. There's people who don't believe that at all. That's why when we leave here, we go back and we say, well, marijuana's not bad for us, so I'm gonna have a little toke, or alcohol doesn't have anything to do with my addiction to methamphetamine, so I'm gonna have a good cold beer, and before you know it, it's right back where we started. Because when we're here, we teach that there is a thing called cross addiction and all of that kind of stuff. And if we go back out there and do a little something, it's going to get us right back where we're going. It's a real good help for us to have a higher power, because I am going to get tempted. I'm going to get tempted with that stuff. I'm going to get to a place where, I'm going to want to use. And at that point in time, I may not have the wherewithal to say I'm not going to do that. So what I have to do is rely on my higher power. So this morning, what we're going to do is we're going to get over just a little bit. We're going to be talking about our brains. We have more than one. And we're going to talk about our brains. We're going to talk about two things about our brains: how drugs and alcohol affect our brains, and then how spirituality affects our brain. And, spirituality, I just read a whole big old thing on how spirituality can affect your brain, can affect your mind, can affect your thinking processes. And isn't that amazing? Just here's the thing. People, and this is kind of free, but it's important. People who have a spiritual connection tend to live longer than people who don't. Isn't that amazing? It is true, yeah. People, they live up to 10 or 15 years longer than somebody who doesn't have a spiritual connection. Why do you think that might be? God is just keeping you around. That could be, yeah. God is just keeping you around. I've seen some people, man, they just old. I'm getting that way myself. They're just getting older and older and older. And maybe it just is. God wants to keep you around. Back in the Old Testament, people lived to 900 years old. I'm hoping that their bodies were in a little bit better shape than ours, because mine's starting to do weird stuff, and I'm only on November, I'll be 72, so I'm not all of that old. But I think maybe it's because, another reason is because of real simple thing. If I have somebody I can go to, if I have a higher power that's looking over me and watching over me, and I know that, then when those stressful situations come up, I'm not as stressed out as everybody else is. I'm just not. I was working at a place years and years and years and years ago, and those guys, our checks came on Fridays. Every other Friday we got our check, and the paper check that they gave us every other Friday. And the guy's wives, mine didn't do it, but the other guy's wives would show up out in the parking lot waiting on their check. And one day they'd get out there about 10 o'clock, and somewhere around lunchtime we get our checks, and we take them out, give them to the wives, and they'd go to the bank, do what they needed to do. Now, look, this was 40 years ago, so it was a long time ago. But this day something happened, and the checks didn't show up on time. So it's like 12 o'clock, no checks. The guys are starting to mill around, they're not doing their jobs well. They're, I was a little supervisor at the time, and I'm walking through there, and hey, our checks aren't here. Well, they're coming. They're coming. So about 2 o'clock, they're, hey, our checks aren't. There's ladies walking around their cars out in the parking lot, and they're not happy. They're not happy. They're supposed to be shopping by now. They still, it's time to get the groceries. It's time to do whatever they need to do, and they can't do it because the check's not there. So about 3:30, it looked like we were going to have a riot, And so one of those guys talked to me. He said, "Hey, dude, how can you be so calm when the checks haven't arrived?" I said, "Because I realize the checks are coming. And I have a higher power. I went and prayed about all this. I'm not worried about it. It's coming." So I was not stressed at all about it. And these guys were totally stressed about it. Now, they had a bigger reason than that because their wives were in the parking lot. My wife's at the house. She didn't, I've always driven in, so it was 60 miles to my house from that place, and so she ain't coming down there to get the checks. I'm going to bring the check home. She's going to put it in the bank, go do what she needs to do on Saturday. So I didn't have that same level, but I also had a higher power I could go to, so that I didn't get stressed out like that. But I believe that if I have a higher power to do, then we can get to a place where the stress level is down, no matter what happens. Things are going to work out. My wife and I had just moved into a place. We were changing jobs, and because we were working at a place, and this guy just quit paying everybody, and so after a month, there's nothing I could do to quit, and so we quit. And then I was going to work for another place, and we're just out of everything. You don't have any money coming in for a month. You're just out of everything. And I was going to work, and I just asked the Lord. I said, "Hey, look, really, we're in a bad way. If you'll give us 1 week's food, if you'll somehow or another just magically, spiritually, God thing, drop 1 week's food. I don't care what it is, ramen noodles, whatever this stuff is, drop it in the back seat of my car. I will really be appreciative." I got to work that day, and I was working for Centacor. On this side is that, the stuff that we do for 30 days. On that side, they did it for 2 years. At that time, I think they stopped. But and this lady came over and said, "Look, you want some food? We have to clean out our cooler." I said, "Well, yeah." I'm thinking, thank you, Lord God, for a week's worth of food, So I go over there to get that week's worth of food, and she opened up this walk-in cooler. And I walked into that walk-in cooler, and she said, "I got to get everything out of here. Everything's got to go." There was meat, there was vegetables, there was soups in big old bags. I still have some. So we got 2 years worth of food. We gave some of the food away. We did. See, this is a higher power. When he blesses you, overwhelms what you're looking for. So having some spirituality in your life will definitely help you in your recovery. And so look, I know, look, this painting up here today, this one goes above and beyond, and I know you can't see it very well over at North, but this one here, I may have to take it off. Because this one is just, just the raw talent, just came pouring out of me today. And this one here, this one's worth money. This is showing, look, there's a little person down here, and this is this person's brain. And I know, look, you might think, well, what the heck does spirituality have to do with the human brain? Everything. Yeah, I do believe that the Holy Spirit lives inside of us, and we are the temple of God. But I'm going to tell you this, that spirituality, if the Holy Spirit lives inside of you, can't not do something to your brain. Got to do something to your mind. So we're going to go over it real quickly, and we're going to talk about each part of our brain and see what we can see about spirituality and all of that stuff in our brain. And I just drew another little part of our brain. And I want to go around this brain and talk to us a little bit about it. This is this very first part of the brain right here. Anybody know what that's called?
Frontal lobe.
That's your frontal lobe. See, we've always got somebody in here that's smarter than the teacher. What is your frontal lobe for?
Communication.
What is it?
Communication.
Communication. It keeps your forehead stuck out. You know, if you didn't have a frontal lobe, your forehead would sink in. You look plumb funny. So God put that frontal lobe in there to keep your forehead. That's not true. Of course, it does do that, right? But there's more to the frontal lobe than that. There's a bunch of stuff. Your frontal lobe gives you your judgment. Gives you your judgment. In the frontal lobe, it suppresses socially inappropriate behavior. Anybody know what socially inappropriate behavior is?
Negative thoughts.
Negative stuff that we do. Because behavior means things we do, right? So if it's socially inappropriate, that means stuff that other people aren't going to stand for. Stuff that's going to scare other people. If I get aggressive, is that going to scare other people? Maybe not me. I'm not all that big. Yeah, you know, but some people, if you get aggressive, that's going to scare other people. Is that socially inappropriate?
Yes.
Absolutely. We have no business being aggressive. It's not right. It's not nothing that is said or done to you should cause you to get aggressive because it's socially inappropriate. Will you having a higher power keep you from doing something socially inappropriate? I've had so many people that's done so many garbage, nasty, ugly, stupid stuff. And when I sit in the office and talk to them, they say, well, yes, I'm a Christian. You know, because I love the Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm going to the local Methodist church right down the road here. Yeah. What? You about the worst Christian I've ever seen. Because we're not, if we actually have that higher power, we ain't listening to them. Right? And if Buddha is your higher power, what was his biggest deal? Tranquility and peace through nature. Let's go love on the tree. Okay, you can't love a tree while you're trying to burn the forest down, right? So it keeps us from having all of this negative, inappropriate behavior. Look, this is your frontal lobe is really good. It's giving you all sorts of information because all of your brain, although it is sectionalized, it connected together by neurotransmitters, correct? And you have these little white things. It looks like fat, but it's not fat, but it looks like fatty tissue that's between the folds of the brain, and those things help your neurotransmitters transmit information across your brain. So if you have a lot of that in there, the neurotransmitters can go a whole lot quicker. If you don't have much, then your neurotransmitters can't go as fast. Sometimes if somebody is really, really smart, like Einstein, when he died, they cut his brain up. Guess what they found? His brain had the same type of neurotransmitters your brain does. But he had like 180 IQ or more. And he had more of that white stuff in his brain than most people. So that's what happened. This part of your brain helps predict consequences of actions. If you decide you're going to mop the floor this morning, then your frontal lobe tells you what the consequences of that. Good behavior has consequences as well as bad behavior. So it tells you, hey, if you mop the floor and do that really well, somebody cleaned the table, did a really good job on the table, somebody else told them so. That was the consequences of doing a really good job. Now, if I don't do a really good job, are there consequences to that too? This is why, and I have people do it all the time, sit down, well, I didn't, yes you do, you have a frontal lobe that tells you. If you do this, you know something's going to happen. If you do something that's outside the rules of this facility, your frontal lobe has already told. So when you get caught, you already knew it. You knew it was wrong. You knew you shouldn't do it. I'm going to get up this morning. I ain't going to make my bed. Your frontal lobe is telling you Miss Rebecca is going to strip you clean, Bubba. If you don't do that, you don't want to get around Miss Rebecca because she's fixing to go nuts on you. Because that's what her job. It says so in her job description. Go nuts on. It says that right in there. So she don't have a choice. She's going to come down if your bed ain't made, she's going to go nuts on you. That's what she's supposed to do. But your frontal lobe is telling you that. You know that. Unless there's something clinically, mentally wrong with it. So most of the time, it's not. It plays a role in the choice between helpful and harmful actions. When you're thinking about doing something, your frontal lobe is going to kick in and it's going to tell you, don't do that. Don't do that. We always come up with good excuses for bad behavior, right? There's always a good excuse for bad behavior. We go out and relapse. When we come back, into treatment again, we're going to have a good excuse for whatever happened. Yeah. We are. And when do we get that excuse? Usually we leave here with that excuse. We leave whatever treatment facility we're in, we've already got an excuse so that we can go out and we can relapse. But we already know. People are teaching us and telling us this is what happens. And I've had a guy, and it used to really infuriate me. It doesn't bother me at all now. I guess I'm getting more mature. And I guess, look, no matter what, it's your choice. Right? You have the choice. So I've had people tell me 100 times at least, probably more than that. I've been teaching this stuff for 40 some odd years. People say, well, that's your opinion. Okay, it's not just my opinion. It's 35,000 doctors who belong to AMA and APA. 35,000 brilliant men and women who have said, this is what happens when you do that. Nuh-uh. No, it's not. I don't believe that. Nuh-uh. But these 35,000 doctors do. So, okay, maybe, now look, there's always that outlier stuff. We talk about it. Maybe you're smarter than all of those doctors. It could be, right? You could be. I'm not saying you maybe so. Maybe your opinion has more weight than they do. I don't believe it. I believe that you got 35,000 doctors saying, if you put this, if you stick this in your eye and you roll it around, it's going to hurt. I think that that's probably what's going to happen. It's going to hurt. And they base that on all their meta-analysis and all of that kind of stuff. And still, yet, we say, nah, that's your opinion. No, it's not. It's these guys' opinion. And they have taken brains apart and they have looked at the brain. And they say, when you do this, that happens. It's okay. All right. So that's the frontal lobe. And can the frontal lobe be affected by the use of drugs or alcohol?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we start using drugs or alcohol, the frontal lobe, all of those things about making decisions and all of that is all muted out. So we'll do things that we would not normally do. Our frontal lobe is screaming, don't you do that, don't you do that, don't you? Go do it anyway. Because we have drugs and will spirituality affect your frontal lobe?
Yes.
Yes, it will. Because here's the deal: when there's something I want to do, and I had this issue happen to me yesterday. I'm in recovery from sugar. Okay, but there's something I wanted to. It's right there. I could have done it. It's just easy to do. All of that kind of stuff, and I wanted to do it, but took a moment to pray about it, to think about it, and my higher power helped me to get beyond that. And so my higher power helped me to make, this is where my choices are made. So my higher power helped me make the right choice, right?
Because you wanted to relapse.
Oh, I did, yes, I wanted to relapse. And see, that's the deal. Look, if you have 30, 40 people in treatment, usually 10 to 12 of those people want to relapse. Now, they will not tell you that, and sometimes they don't even know that. As far as I know right now that I'm getting hungry, it's a little bit different. But when we leave, we want to relapse. That's why we'll tell our stuff. Well, one of the things that we do to ourselves as addicts is lie to ourselves. I'm working on lying because, I do lie and I don't want to lie anymore. I want to be brutally stinking honest. So, but we'll lie to ourselves. And one of the biggest lies we'll tell ourselves is, I can use as long as I don't use the drug that got me in.
Right.
That's a lie. That's a lie. We're lying to ourselves, and we'll lie to other people. Immediately, if we get out of here and we've lied to ourselves that, hey, I can still drink alcohol. Say it again.
But I'm not an alcoholic.
No,
that's
not.
What I can tell.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm cracky, but I'm not.
Absolutely. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm like you said, I'm a crackhead. I'm not an alcoholic, so I can have. That's not true. Right. There's a thing called cross addiction. So if I'm addicted to this drug, I'm addicted to that drug. I mean, not what's the deal? I never have used that drug. So how on earth am I addicted to that drug?
So what you're saying is, I'm a crackhead, I'm a meth head, I'm an alcoholic, I'm all of them.
Yeah, if I'm addicted to one drug,
I'm addicted to all of them.
And I might look here. This is a little bit. I'm gonna get right with you. Here, it's a little bit of a jump. You have to get there. No. But I'm not actually addicted to that drug. But the moment I use that drug, I become addicted to it.
Right, because you're addicted to all of them because you're addict.
Right. Yes.
It's known as addictive.
Okay. Yeah. So we are. Now the next one is kind of hard to say, but is parietal lobe. What's this lobe for? Right next to it. What's this lobe do? Anybody know?
I'm gonna take a guess. I'm gonna say D.
See?
What is it?
No.
Parietal?
It's hard to say. Parietal lobe.
Oh, it's P-A-R.
P-A-R-I-E-T-A-L. Parietal lobe. So I'm like, this is what interprets the sensations that get on our body. That people touch you or something. Yeah. This is the part, you're feeling, your sensations of feel, like touch, pressure, pain, heat, cold, anything like that. Yeah. You ever had the feeling of formication? Anybody know what formication is? I didn't say fornication. I said formication with an M instead of an N. Formication is the sensation of bugs crawling on your body when they're actually nothing on your body. Called formication, exactly like fornication, but with an M. Say it again. Yeah, and there's several drugs that'll make that happen to you. But this is the part of your body, part of your brain that tells you to do that. It helps you also with the understanding of objects, shapes, and space. So it helps you objects. It helps you understand objects. When I look over there and I see that recovery sign, I know what that is because of this portion of my brain. Right. When I look over there, I see that desk, I know what that is because of this portion of my brain. Right. So it helps me with all of that stuff. So does alcohol, drugs deal with that? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When we use an alcohol or drug, this messes with our perception of how sensations are in our body. So, and if we have a spiritual connection, if we have a higher power, I'm going to guarantee you that higher power can cause sensations in your body. And that's an amazing thing. So here's the deal. This is one of the reasons. Think about this. And I know I keep going back to that, but it's really, really important. And this is one of the reasons that we go back out and we relapse is because we want to get those sensations. When if I happen to use methamphetamine, I use methamphetamines to get myself to that level of high. But if I go out and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not addicted to marijuana and I'm not addicted to alcohol, I'm not addicted to this other drug, and I use that drug, I'm still trying to get to that level of high. And once I use that, what we look at as a lesser drug, which is not really, but once we use that drug, it gets us to this level of high. And once I get to that level of high, I'm still seeking this level of high. So I'm going to go get what I used to get to that level of high. So look, I'm going to make a statement. Y'all agree, don't agree. This is my opinion, but it also comes from the deep study, and it comes from AMA and APA doctors who have put this out. It doesn't matter what we believe. If you still believe that you can use drugs of any kind other than the one, then you don't have a snowball's chance. Phoenix, Arizona, you're going to relapse. You're just here for a break. You are going to relapse. If you go back out, when you went and had that nice cold beer, you relapsed. You already relapsed. You're not using a drug that got you here, but you're already in relapse using drugs again. So you've relapsed. And there's more people using alcohol that cause more problems out there than any of the other drugs, any of them at all. So we go out there and we have a beer and we get drunk and we get out there and run over somebody's kid or something like that. That kind of thinking is ridiculous. Kind of thinking is just doesn't make sense at all for a thinking person. That doesn't make any sense. So this, and yes, and so can this portion of your brain can be affected by drugs, it can be affected by alcohol. It can also be affected by the belief in and adherence to a higher power. So what's this other thing here? It's the occipital lobe right here. That little junk right there, occipital, occipital. What does that do? You called it a while ago.
Thinking.
What is it?
Thinking.
No. Hey, what you said a while ago. My hearing is what maybe you did. No, this processes and makes sense of visual information.
Seeing things.
Seeing things, yeah. When I'm looking out, my vision is not as good as it used to be, but when I see something, it's being seen.
Process.
This is the one that's processing my vision and all of that. And we all know, I'm sure, that when I see you, it is interpreted in my brain as upside down, right? My brain then, as it's going from the occipital lobe to give information to the rest of the brain, it turns the picture right side up again. So, and I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's your brain. Okay, that's how interesting it is. When you look out here, when y'all look up here at me, you're actually seeing me and everything around you upside down, and your brain turns it around for you. This is the portion of why did God set it up like that? I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. It works pretty well, though. Cameras work exactly that same way. So they are built just like you. And so a camera is going to, it'd probably be less disruptive if you would kind of do a dance step on your way out of the group. Some kind of, maybe the Charleston or something, I don't know. All right. So can drugs, alcohol mess with your vision?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Man, I mean, it can make you see. It can make you see double, make you see triple, make your at night. It can take away your night vision. It can give you stuff that's jumping. If you're using a drug like marijuana, what is marijuana? Marijuana is a mild perception distorter. When you do that, and your hand goes, so it distorts your perception of reality. So it's the worst drug that's out there, I think. PCP does the same thing. If you look on the schedules of drugs that we use, marijuana is on the number one. What does that mean? That's the schedule of worst drugs. As it goes on up, as the schedule number gets higher, the less of a problem the drug is. On number 5, you have like aspirin. On number 1, you've got marijuana, PCP,
methamphetamine,
yeah.
cocaine.
No, cocaine's not on there. Cocaine's actually number 2 scheduled drug because all of these drugs on number 1 schedule, they're illegal and we don't have any medical use for them. On the number 2 schedule, they're legal in some instances and we have a medical use for them. We use cocaine to deaden your eye when we do deep eye surgery. So there is a use for that. But most of those drugs that are on that second place, they're illegal for us to have in our possession.
So marijuana's on level 2.
Marijuana's on level 1 because there's no medical use for marijuana, and it's an illegal drug. And so here goes the fight. Yes.
I disagree.
I don't doubt that.
Because the doctors that you talk about,
yeah,
they say medical marijuana.
Yeah.
But like people with cancer, it help them eat. If you can't see good, it helps you see. So that's what the doctors say. I'm just going about what the people say. I'm not going about what I say.
I understand you, but here's the deal. When somebody has stage 4 cancer, what does marijuana do for them? What is it?
It numbs some of the elements.
It numbs it a little bit. It may, like you said, help them get a little bit of appetite. It doesn't cure.
No,
neither does it treat stage 4 cancer. It doesn't do anything for them.
But
there are some.
Marijuana. That's what the doctors say.
Yeah. We're calling it medical marijuana because we can use it to help alleviate some of their misery.
Okay.
Now, if you got stage 4 cancer, I have a friend who has stage 4 cancer right now. I don't care if you drink a gallon of gasoline. What bothers me about that is that argument. We tell a 12-year-old kid, it's medical marijuana. And we get a kid who starts using marijuana at about 8 or 10 or 12 years old. And by the time he's your age, he does have stage 4 cancer because it's a cancer-causing agent. Really? So he died. Yes, it has 7 times more tar in it than cigarettes do. So it's a cancer-causing agent. Anything you put in your lungs is going to destroy your lungs, destroy your health, and kill you. So it's not a good drug. If God came down and said, look, Dr. Garner, let me tell you something. There's any drug out there, you just pick one and it'll disappear. I'd pick marijuana.
That'd be one you pick.
Yeah, it's more deadly than all of the rest of them. It would be a toss-up between marijuana and nicotine. Because nicotine kills so many more people. Right. Probably have to go with nicotine.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's and look, if you believe in a higher power and you have a higher power in your life, that belief and that adherence to that can help with your visual acuity. It can help you see better. It can be called, you're not going to do anything that's going to mess with that. Yes.
Because it helps you stay comfortable.
It will help you. It will help you stay
I'm going to use God in my recovery.
I think that you should. Here's the reason for that. When there's more than one person involved in a situation, the chances of that situation coming to fruition is about 100 times better. Right. If you've got a partner to help you with that, and sometimes people get tired of you, but we may love you, but we got enough of you. Yeah. People get like that. God loves you, and He ain't ever going to get enough of you. He's going to keep you around no matter what. There's nothing you can do to change God's mind about loving you. Right. Now, you may just be crazy and goofy and all of that stuff and wind up in hell, but the deal is, that's not because God didn't love you. That's because you didn't love Him. It's not that. It's not sin that sends anybody to hell.
It's your choice.
Yeah, it's your choice. It's not sin that sends anybody to hell. It's not accepting, the Lord Jesus. But anyway, what is this little thing right here?
Cerebellum.
Your cerebellum. Man, that's the only one up there that's easy enough to say.
The thinking.
What is it?
The thinking.
Thinking?
Yeah.
No.
Well, what thinking is?
Your thinking is all of these together up here.
Oh.
That's the top part. We've talked about that probably 72,000 times. You remember when I tell you, this part is your intellect.
Right.
This part is your emotions right through here. When we let our emotions get over our intellect, we do goofy, stupid stuff.
Right. So all of them go together.
All this up here is your intellect.
Right.
So what does the cerebellum do?
Smell it.
What does it do?
Smell it.
It smells you.
You love me.
Ain't but 20 or 30 more things you could guess. The cerebellum deals with your balance and your voluntary motor skills. What's a voluntary motor skill?
Well, pick your spin up.
Absolutely. If your cerebellum wasn't working well, you wouldn't have been able to do that. If you pick your nose, scratch your butt, if you walk, if you wave at somebody, if you clap your hands, if you write, type, do anything like that, your cerebellum is taking care of that. Right. Just making sure all that happens. What happens when you use drugs or take alcohol, drink alcohol?
You get one.
Yeah, it causes what is called ataxia. A-T-A-X-I-A, ataxia. Ataxia means that I'm wobbling when I walk.
I'm drunk.
Yeah, it also causes a thing called center sway. Center sway means that
balance.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning.
So before you tell you walk that line.
Yeah, that's why the police say walk that line.
Yes.
What line? I can't walk no line.
I'm following his people.
I saw a thing on Facebook where the old guy they were going to give him he was drunk. I mean, he was drunk. He got those cops laughing so much. They pulled him over and got him out of the car, and he's that kind of drunk. And they said, all right, we're going to do a breathalyzer test. Is that all right with you? He said, sure. So they gave him the breathalyzer thing. The cop said, blow in that, till I tell you to quit. The old guy took that breathalyzer and he's trying to drink out of it.
Yeah.
He thought it was another drink. Those cops busted up, man. So, yeah, it's going to do some stuff like that. When you have a higher power in your life, it will help you get to the place where when you're starting to have some issues like that, and my wife has some issues, I've told you all about it. She has high anxiety, which leads her to some shaking and stuff like that. Do you think that's caused messing with her cerebellum a little bit? Something is fooling with her cerebellum a little bit, and she doesn't have the kind of balance that she used to have when she was a young chick. She used to be a majorette, and she had to have, really good balance and stuff like that when she was a kid. Sorry?
Is she older than you?
No. She's about 9 months younger than me.
Oh.
Yeah.
You like younger women.
Say it again?
I said you like younger women.
I don't like younger. Oh, yeah. 9 months younger. Yeah. So it plays a major role in there. But like on Sunday, we were headed to church, and she takes a handful of pills to keep all of that from happening. And we usually go out to the restaurant, stop, have something to eat. And even with the pills, sometimes it'll make her all shaky in it. So what we did, since she had forgotten her pills, we had a word of prayer over her. She never shook one time.
Right.
So things like that show me that my higher power is actually real. Not only is my higher power real, actual, and factual, he cares about me, he cares about her, and he cares about you. That's mine. So this other thing right here is what? That was pretty easy to say too. That's your brain stem. What does your brain stem do?
Everything.
Everything. Not quite everything. But your brain stem allows the transfer of information between the brain and the body. When your brain says, okay, walk down the hall, your brain tells that to the brain stem, and your brain stem goes down to your legs and say, let's start walking.
Right.
Yeah, it helps you to move. It takes all of that information. When you move your arms and stuff, your brain is telling your hand to do stuff like this, and your brain stem is saying, okay, arm, let's do that.
That's like if I throw you a baseball.
Yeah, then both of our brain stems are working.
Right.
Also, it plays a role in automatic functions such as heartbeat and breathing. My brain stem is keeping my heart beating. It's also making me breathe. Remember we talked about the limbic system doing that? Your brain stem is a very primitive type of brain. It's not thinking at all. It's just telling you that that's what you need to do.
Right.
It's just saying all it does is help you know when to move, how to do it, all that kind of stuff. This little spot right here, what is that? There's a little blue spot right here. What is that little blue spot?
Mesolymphatic.
Mesolimbic.
What's that?
Mesolimbic system. What do you think it does? Mesolimbic system is your pleasure center.
Oh.
That's why you take drugs. Because when we do something like eat ice cream, then if we like ice cream, it excites our mesolimbic system. Yeah, it gets it excited. Whatever else, if we like to, I don't know, ride on a merry-go-round or ride horses or pet dogs or whatever.
We like to do.
Whatever we enjoy doing, the mesolimbic system is going to get excited. What we do when we use drugs is overstimulate the mesolimbic system, and it'll destroy all sorts of stuff. You have sensors in there, receptors, and these receptors are built like this. That's your receptor, and then the neurotransmitter comes down. It's built like that. So when the neurotransmitter comes down, it excites the receptor and it goes crazy. And we feel good. And every time we feel good about something, we want to repeat the experience. So if we want to repeat the experience, we have to go get ice cream. If we want to repeat the experience, we got to pet that dog. We got to ride that horse. We got to get that motorcycle. We got to do whatever to do that. Once we get drugs, we've got a lot of these things. There's a whole bunch of these receptors, and what happens is the drugs overstimulate them and burn them out.
Right.
Every drug's going to burn some of them out. If you happen to be a cocaine user, cocaine burns them up 10 times quicker than anything else. Once they're burned up, guess what happens to them? Yeah, they don't come back. So we reach a place of what? Y'all remember what place we reach?
Fitness. Not fitness, but you know, excitement. I'm not a writer.
Anhedonia. What does anhedonia mean? Anhedonia is that place where you can no longer feel any pleasure. That's where we get to the place where our drug is not exciting us anymore. Ice cream is not exciting us anymore. Sex is not exciting us anymore. So we're at a place where we just can't get to a good place anymore. Because this is how that looks. You have this system here in your body, and anhedonia is way up here. And here is your pleasure center. The use of drugs causes the pleasure center and anhedonia to trade places so that it's down here now.
Right.
So I can no longer get the pleasure.
Can you spell it out?
Anhedonia. 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 That's a bad place to get to.
Right.
We don't want to get there. Usually when we reach the place of anhedonia, we are seriously addicted.
Right.
What that means is we're not using the drug to feel good anymore. We're using the drug to feel normal.
Because that's what we look for, that first feeling that we got in the 80s.
Yeah, we're not gonna ever get to that place.
Yeah.
So this little place right, that's what this thing does. It does all of that stuff. So what's this little place right here?
That little place?
Actually, it's not a little place. It goes way over here, probably past midway in your brain. It's a pretty good chunk of stuff. That's your temporal lobe.
The temple.
Temporal lobe, not the temporal. It's your temporal lobe. What does that do?
Everything.
All of it in there, I suppose, helps you think. So that's probably a correct assessment. But it assists with the perception and the interpretation of sound. That's where your hearing is. It plays a role in the recognition of objects and visual memory. Now, you remember the occipital lobe over here processes, make sense of your visual information. Without that, you couldn't see.
It's like I heard the sick get up.
Yeah. So the temporal lobe, it is a place where the memory of what you saw is housed. So, can alcohol and drugs affect your temporal lobe? Well, absolutely. Because when I get drunk or get high or something like that, I hear all sorts of things. And sometimes I don't hear things that are real. Sometimes I do hear things that are real. Sometimes nowadays I don't hear much of anything. I forgot my hearing aids this morning. I thought about them about halfway to work, and I said, "Well, heck." But and then it plays a role in the recognition of objects. It helps you recognize objects. There's another one here that does most of that. Your parietal lobe does most of that, but this lobe also helps you to understand some of those sounds. It plays a role in the recognition of objects and visual memory. The things that we've seen before in our memory, this is part of your brain that brings all that back to us.
Right.
And that's a real interesting thing. So the reason that we went over the brain here this morning is to let us know that our brains are affected abnormally by alcohol and drugs. We're doing things to our brains. We cannot expect to use mood-altering drugs and not get some damage done to our brain.
Right.
I started using drugs and alcohol when I was 8 years old. Okay? When I was 8 years old. So from that time to this time, from that time to the time I stopped using alcohol and drugs, my mind is not the same as it was. My brain has been damaged over the years of all of that years.
Right.
We're still damaging our brains by the use of nicotine. Nicotine itself doesn't damage our brains as much as all of these other drugs, but all the other stuff that is housed in there with the nicotine does damage your brain. Every time you smoke a cigarette, you're damaging your brain to some extent. I know that we are addicted to nicotine. That's the drug that's in the cigarette that keeps us addicted to them. But it's all the other stuff that does damage to our brain. So every time that we go outside and have a break and use a little bit of nicotine, it does some serious damage to our brain. Everything does that. So if you have a higher power, can it help you to stay off drugs and alcohol? Absolutely. If you adhere to it's probably, and I forget the statistic, I know it's like 90% of people who stay off drugs and have a higher power and adhere to some type of worship, some type of spiritual connection, they live 10 to 15 years longer than people who don't do that. Also, the people who have a spiritual connection, it's like 200 times easier for them to stop the use of drugs and alcohol, to include the cigarettes, to include tobacco in all of its forms. So, questions, comments, or snide remarks about the brain. Now, if we took your brain out, and we cut that thing in half, it looks just like that. Might be a little different, a little more bloody, stuff like that.
A little black.
Say it again.
A little black.
A little blacker.
Yeah, from being burnt.
From say it again.
Being burnt.
Your brain been burnt?
Yeah.
No. No, your brain. Look, your lungs may get black, but your brain's not going to get black. But your brain can shrink over a period of time. You use drugs and alcohol over a period of 20, 25 years, it's going to shrink up to about 20% of its original weight. And you cannot believe that you have the same level of intelligence, same level of oomph as you did before you started using. If your brain is trained, and think about this: if you are using a whatever it is, and you're putting that in your body, and you know that it is affecting your brain to the point that it's actually going to physically shrink it, you would think that a thinking person would be caused to pause at that moment. Say, wait a minute, this is going to shrink my brain. I'm going to feel goofy, for a little bit, and I'm going to think things about myself that's absolutely not true, but it's going to actually physically shrink my brain.
Because a lot of people can't help a third grade do their homework.
Say it again.
A lot of people that do drugs and get to the grandkids and the kids, and they say, well, I need some help with this.
Yeah. You're
in the second grade, and you can't help.
Yeah, because look, I get what you're saying. I remember when my kids were in school, and they would come and say, "Hey, you need to do this." I used to have a nurse that worked for me at one of the facilities, and she would always bring her math to me and say, "What's it?" And I had to finally tell her, "Look, I want you to progress as a nurse. I want you to become a PA." Or something like that down the road. But if I do all your math for you, how scary is that? If I go to see you as a PA and you couldn't do the math, then I don't think I don't want to do that. I want a nurse that knows how to add and subtract and do all that kind of stuff.
Because you got to be able to add and subtract to be a nurse, because you got to count the medicine.
Yeah, you got to count the medicine. All right, real quickly, I'm going to tell y'all what we're going to do when we get back in here, and then we'll take our break. We're going to do a really quick study on spirituality around us. How does all of this? How does the whatever we see in here? How does all of that link to spirituality? And so the trees out there and the grass and the chairs and whatever we're going to have for lunch today and all of that kind of stuff links to some way with spirituality. So we're going to look at about 6 or 7 different things real quickly and see how we can see something spiritual in all of those things. So we're going to pop off here really a quick minute early, but let's get back in here at 15 minutes after, and we'll head out again.
What's that wrong story?
What did you say?
Wrong story.
Oh yeah, we're wrong.
I'm saying who's in wrong. Are you in wrong story?
Oh, no ma'am.
Let me ask you something.
I don't care how exactly her question.
Okay.
She's supposed to counselor thing.
Okay, wrong story. Guys, wrong story. That's wrong. Are you in wrong story? What's wrong story?
He's on 5. I'm on 4.
That's what I'm saying. It's in wrong story.
It's Dion. And they have everybody watch you take on every door. You already own it. Well, look, I don't get them every day now.
Did he call about it? He said he didn't know if he had therapy or not. Well, he told me this morning he called at first when he talked about it. Didn't know if he had therapy or not. And said, he said, can I call and see? And I was like, he said he can't remember.
Who's on board here? I am. You ain't no wrong board. I am.
Yeah, he's a room for it.
Yeah, it's in the wrong board. You ain't wrong for 6 months. But not that one. Okay, well, y'all excited for y'all babies. That's what I'm getting. Okay. I'll get right out.
Everything else looks good in there.
I'll get right on that.
The bathroom, nice and clean, the view.
What's wrong with you? I'm cheering. And they last day of the season for what's the next day? First day. The first day when you come to know, that's the season. Yeah. You gotta tighten up on that thing. You alright? Just trying to let myself try to stay focused. Sometimes Take care of that stuff. Everything. Thank you. Thank you so much. I completely learned about time, about the process. I had a long set of shit. You want to start the work this year? That's right. That's great. Mom. What is this? A little slow, man. What the hell? No.
Mr. Kim, did you find out if you had therapy?
Yeah.
You do? What time?
Yeah, we come to college.
You got to break till 15 after?
Yes, ma'am.
You fix that thing. Dr. G side. I don't know what I did. I just thought about it. I need to finish putting all them, all them papers that got left or whatever. My goodness. I don't think it's got or like what are you doing, sir?
Well, throwing that out. Every time we're ready.
I don't know. I looked at my weather app and said it's going to be cloudy all day. The sun acted like it didn't want to come out this morning. How you doing, sir? You're doing all right? Weekend okay? Yep. You go to church every day this weekend? Thank you.
Did he announce who won the donut?
You ask him about it?
Huh?
You gonna ask him about it?
No. Did I sign?
What's his name?
I don't eat donuts in the world. Why would you care about donut and you?
No, you didn't sign this. For Dr. Gardner's.
Oh.
At least you knew that. I was gonna say, you never put on his desk.
Well, I had that.
Wait, you were the one in there.
Yeah, yeah, you tripping.
I'm thinking in my mind, you two people. Stupid.
White people tripping.
The thing put that coffee in. I don't know. I feel like I'm a Milton.
That's because you tripping.
I am tripping.
Got about a minute. All right, we're back. We're going to get started. Anybody have any questions over the brain? How it's affected by drugs, alcohol, how it's affected by spirituality and all? All right. So I did a really good job because nobody has any questions. That's good stuff. So what we're going to look at here real quickly, we have 45 minutes that we can use this morning to take a look at some of the spirituality that's around it. One of these things, some of these things that we're going to talk about in the next few minutes and you recognize them as absolutely being connected to spirituality and helping us to connect to our higher power. Others are not so obvious. So others are a little bit different, but we're going to take a look at them and then we'll talk about how they relate to our spirituality and all of that kind of stuff. The very first thing we're going to look at, and you'll know is absolutely connected to a higher power, is just have a good active prayer life. Be willing to take a minute and talk to your higher power. Just take a minute, talk to him. Look, here's the thing. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that if you will pray, the moment that you start thinking about something that you know is not going to work well for you, then you have an opportunity to make a different choice. Yeah. Here's the deal. You need to get your higher power involved pretty quick. Most of us, or most of the time, for me, I always get my higher power involved. Always pray. Always deeply meditate, and always. But it's usually after I've done whatever it was I wanted to do. Usually it's after I've relapsed. Usually it's then, and I'm begging and repenting and turning away from all. But if I tend to pray and talk to my higher power, looking for help before I do whatever it is, then I can talk to him and just thank him for being there in the lurch when I needed him to be, and he will be there. So the very first thing is pray. It says take a moment to get in contact with your higher power. I know so many people that profess to have a higher power, never talk to him, never go to church, never go to synagogue, never go to temple, never do anything like that. Don't do anything that says, hey, I have this higher power that I'm trying to follow the precepts that he has laid down for me. How long do you think a relationship with someone, a human being, would last if you never talked to them?
Not very long.
You never went over and visited with them. You know where their house is, and their house not only is where it's always been, you know where it is, but it has their name up over it. But you never go to their... No, you're right. Not very long. That relationship will fall apart in a minute. So here's the deal. If you're not talking to that other person, if you're not going to visit with that other person, if you're not doing some of the things that other person would have you do, you're not in a relationship with that person at all.
You're running on self-will.
Yeah, you're running on self-will. You're doing what you want to do. But even if, you find somebody here, a human being that you want to have a good relationship with, if you're not talking to them and if you're not visiting with them and if you're not going out to do this, if you're not taking a ride, you're not taking a walk, you're not doing some of the things that other person wants to do, you don't have a relationship with that person. You may think you have a relationship, but you don't. And here's the deal. We know that. Like I said, we're not dumb. Sir?
You have to spend time with them.
You have to spend time with that person. And if we really, look, if we really like that person, if we really love that person, we really want to be involved with that person, we're going to spend time with that person. We're going to go and we're going to make sure that they know how we feel. They know that we care about them, that we're going to make sure that happens. Same thing goes for your higher power. If you don't ever pray, if you don't ever bend the knee, if you don't ever go to temple, if you don't ever go to church, if you don't ever do any of those things, you don't have a higher power. You say you do, you think you do, sometimes you act like you might, but you don't. If you don't have any relationship with a higher power at all, and the only time that you call upon your higher power is when something happened. I was out working on our trailer. We're going on vacation, as I'm hoping everybody knows. I've told you 900 times. But, I got to there's a few little things. I want it to be a little bit lighter, so we've got this thing on the back of it that lays down and you can put stuff on there to carry. So I took that off to make it a little bit lighter. And then I pulled one of my tires off, took it down and had the tire guy over here at Monica Brothers take a look at it, make sure they're fine. So that tire's bought at the same time all the rest of it. I'm putting it back on there, and here comes a whole bunch of red wasps after me. And they're just, they're running around there. Look, that morning when I went out to work on that trailer on Saturday, I hadn't said a word to my higher power. I'm just out there trying to get my trailer ready to go. I got a little thing I got to fix. Got to go get a part today for it. And I was doing all of that. So I didn't ask him for protection or anything like that. So when I got out there and did that, one of those bees got me right in the stomach. Usually I can fight them off, and I got my hat off and I'm swatting these little flying monsters, but the one that I was fighting, the one up high, so they double teamed me. One came in high and one came in low, and he got me right here on the stomach. And it got all red down in here and all of that kind of stuff. And it's still itching today. So I had a little bit of an allergic reaction to that thing. But I guarantee you, when they were eating me, I started praying. And that's when we usually do it. When the police pull up behind me. We don't pray, Lord, let me just drive speed limit. I mean, I don't like to drive speed limit. I remember the song, I Can't Drive 55, when they had a 55 speed limit through the whole United States there for a little while. That didn't last very long. But, so I'm driving along there and I'm having, we don't do that. We pray when they come up and pull up behind us, we pray, Lord, don't let this man do anything weird, and don't let him give me a ticket, all this kind of crazy mess, all those things. We start doing those at that time. If we have a relationship with him, then we know that he's going to be there when those things happen. But we've got to foster the relationship. Now, I will tell you this, I've had God knock me down like he did Paul a couple of times. And say, hey, read the Bible. Hey, do this. I've had him do that a couple times, but not usually. God doesn't come by. Your higher power is not going to come by and say, hey, we need to talk. Not usually. He comes in a still, small voice. So sometimes, most of the time, it's up to us. We've got to be the one to make time. You got to make time for that other person in your life, and you got to make time for your higher power. If you don't make time, you ain't going to have time. So it says, look, take a moment to get in contact with your higher power. Talk together about the situation that is about to cause you some issues. I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to go to court. If I got to go to court, I'm going to go prayed up. I'm going to be praying for 3 or 4 days before I go up there. I'm going to be, and not just prayed up for getting me out of this, but I'm going to be prayed up for letting me respond in the way that I should.
Right.
Let me respond. I saw a thing on Facebook the other day where this young lady was in front of the judge, and he said, well, you're guilty. We're going to give you some probation. And she started screaming at him. She told him something nasty. And he said, okay, all right, no probation. You got 30 days in jail. And she started again. He said, okay, 60 days. Oh, yes. Got up, you've seen that, up to about 180. And they hauled this chick off. She's going to spend 6 months in jail. just because she didn't respond the way that she's supposed to respond. When I'm standing in front of a judge, I know a couple of things. That man has my life in his hand. There's a guy standing behind me with a gun in the bag. And if he tells that guy there to take me and put me in the jail, I'm gone. There ain't a thing I can do about it. There's 2 or 3 of them big old boys. It doesn't matter. You know, if you're the baddest guy, baddest girl on earth, they're going to get you and put you in that cell. So, you know, I'm going to be, when a policeman pulls me over on the side of the road, he's going to leave that encounter thinking, I ain't never met a nicer guy in my whole life.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Anything I can help you with, you need a couple bucks. I'm not going to do that.
No.
That might get me in some trouble. But he's never met a nicer person, guarantee you. I have gotten some tickets, but 90% of the time, they say, well, you know, all right, thank you. And then they look at my record and all that stuff, and they come back and say, well, I got stopped on IH-10 the other day. And he said, do you know how fast you was going? I said, yes, sir. I was going 65 miles an hour. He said, you know the speed limit is 55? I said, yes, sir. I knew the speed limit was 55 miles an hour. I'm tired. I was just headed home. I wasn't paying any attention to how fast I was. Just telling you the truth, officer. You know, and when I looked down, I saw it was 65 miles an hour, and then I saw your bubblegum machine behind me. I said, okay. You know, so I pulled over. You know, I'm willing to take the ticket because I did that. You know, and it's against the law to go that fast over the speed limit. So he gave me a warning, and he said, don't do that anymore. I said, well, I ain't going to guarantee it. You know, if I get out here, I'm going home, and this road, look, this is a 4-lane highway, and you got it down to 55 miles an hour out here. Now, on a 4-lane highway like this, I don't understand why it ain't 75. You can go up 73, which is a 2-lane highway that's 75.
Right.
You know why that? But I didn't argue with him about that. I just said, yes, sir, I'm going to do my level best. Now, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. I ain't going to lie about it, you know. But I'm sure you'll be on the job. Thank you for what you do. And then I went home that way. So, but, you know, I'm praying about let me respond the way I'm a Christian. You know, the Holy Spirit is in me. And when you have the fruit of the Holy Spirit, that's love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, gentleness, mercy, long-suffering, and self-control. I'm supposed to have all of that.
Right.
If I look, and I've had people tell me I'm a Christian, and you couldn't tell it. If I can't tell it by the fruit, when you go into an apple orchard, what do you expect to get?
An apple.
Yeah, and if you're looking in that whole apple orchard trying to find some oranges, you ain't going to get what you're looking for.
Right.
So, you know, if a person tells me, well, I love the Lord, you know what, I'm a Christian. I've been a Christian since I was just a little baby person child, and all of this stuff. But you're screaming and yelling and cussing and doing all of that kind of stuff to people. You ain't got none of the fruit. You ain't none of that kind of apple tree. You know, right? One of the ways it tells you that you know that you're in the right place and you're saved, sanctified, sliding in heaven, all of that stuff is because you love the brethren. I had a lady tell me, and I told y'all this a couple times. I had a lady tell me the other day, you know, she said, you know, God told me I had to love you, but he didn't say I had to like you. And that's true, you know. So I'm okay with people loving me. You might have to like me, you know. If you love me, you give me $1 if I need one, right? So how many people can I get $1 off? None. Okay. So look, take some time to meditate on how your higher power would handle the situation. Y'all remember that little thing that they used to have a long time ago, the WWJD thing? What would Jesus do? Man, that's a good question. You know, what would my higher power do in a situation like this? I need to emulate him. I need to be just like him. If, you know, somebody says something out of the way or does something goofy to me, I'm supposed to love that person. What if that person's not a brother? What if that person's not a Christian? What if that person's not at the same ilk as I am?
Still showing love.
Say it again?
Still showing love.
You're supposed to love them even more because they're not enlightened at all. Look, I'm supposed to be responding and everything in love. If I do that, I'm not going to have any problem.
Right.
That mean I wimp out? Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I'm a Christian, but I'm one of them mean Christians.
What?
That's right. I'm going to stand up for me, stand up for him, stand up for you.
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm going to do. So, all right, the second one, look, here's some of the stuff we can do that, this is not necessarily right in there, but it is too. Take a 10-minute nature break. If you're having some stuff, you need some spirituality in your life, you need to get in touch with your higher power. Take about a 10-minute spirituality break. Go outside and look. I walk out here under these trees. I'm watching the squirrels. I'm looking at the trees every morning coming in. I'm talking to God about 3 or 4 different things, but I'm always thanking Him for the green trees and the green grass, and I thank Him for the spectacle that I see every morning. Man, if you get out there in the morning with the clouds, when the clouds come up, the sun's coming up, looks like the sky's on fire. Wow. It's magnificent. It's fabulous. I feel sorry for people who sleep in. Get a little bit more sleep maybe, but you miss the magnificence that God puts on early in the morning. So going out there, it's called nature therapy. You go out there and look at what God did. I'm going to tell you what. I deal with a lot of people a lot of the times that not everybody believes like I believe. Not everybody is a firm, strong believer in God. But if you take a blade of grass out there and pull that blade of grass out, take a look at it, explain that. A blade of grass, you can't create that. We can't create. We can plant a seed and let grass grow, but we can't create that from nothing. Create that. Make that. Make a grass seed. You make a blade of grass. Can't do that. Somebody did it. We can't do it. So look, nature therapy was 100%. We've made sure of that. 100% free.
Right.
You don't have to pay for it. You can get out here and walk around this building. You can look at all these trees, all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to do anything, but it is highly, highly effective. The research indicates that spending as little as 10 minutes in the outdoors can improve your mood.
Yep.
So 10 minutes in the outdoor. Now here's the thing you do that really sticks spirituality into that. While you're out there for 10 minutes, talk to your higher power. Talk to your higher power. Now, if your higher power is the doorknob, is that okay? Well, it is. If that's where you need to start with the doorknob so that you know there's something greater than you. You can have a spiritual experience down at Lowe's in the doorknob. That's okay. Go down there and buy you one of your little, doorknobs, but carry it with you through when you're doing all of that kind of stuff. And pretty soon you'll feel that spiritual connection that you need. And so go out there, talk to your higher power while you're communing with nature. You can walk out there and walk through all of the nature and all of that kind of stuff. And, when I got stung by the bee yesterday, I was thanking God that I didn't get stung by the other bees. I warded him off, and I got hit the day before. I run into 2 of those nests on my trailer. One, there's an exhaust there for my icebox, and that's where one nest is. And around where my spare tire is, there was another one in the spare tire. And these things were all over me, and I was popping them with my hat, getting them out of the way. And yesterday, it didn't happen quite as well. But, it wasn't yesterday, it was Saturday. But, I'm thanking God that I got hit by one of them. There's 5 or 6 of them on that nest. Pretty good sized net. Yes, sir.
The doctor has told me, I was sick one time. He told me it was good to go walk outside.
Yeah.
Barefoot in the grass. Because the earth got a magnetism that you.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you a couple of numbers to some real doctors. You need some real doctors. First off, I don't go anywhere barefooted, especially not out in the grass.
Barefoot.
Yeah, you get on one of them big ground wasps out there, you can feel something about.
Yeah. He live in the country.
He live in the country. Yeah, and if you're walking, you're gonna feel the magnetic I've walked in barefoot. I had never felt anyway. And you know, I don't know all everything
That's
there
what
is.
the doctor said.
Yeah, he must have been a naturopathic doctor or some kind of something like that. But you know, I'm sure you can feel something. But as a diabetic, uh, they tell you do not go barefoot. If you go barefoot, if you hurt your feet at all, you get they have issues.
This is how the women walk barefoot. Me and my mom used.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those folks, when I was back in Mississippi as a kid, we walked barefoot a lot because we didn't have shoes. Your feet get toughened up after a while. I've worn shoes so long now that I wouldn't.
But the herb got something. The herb is alive. The herb is not dead.
Okay, I'm gonna, like I said, I got some numbers of some real doc. I'll get that for you. Here's the other thing, and this is this is important. Some people look at it and say, okay, that's crazy. See these things in the corner, and over here we have plastic plants that's in the corner. That's made to, that's there to make it look like we've got a little bit of nature going on in here. I wish they'd take those things to the dump where they belong and put some real plants in here. Let us take care of some real plants and stuff like that. Of course, look, Miss Kim was sitting over there and she's shaking her head because she knows who's going to have to take care of those. Not going to be me. So anyway, become a plant parent. What's a plant parent?
Or you grow your own plants inside your own house.
Yeah.
A plant is good to have when you come to take. You go to water basket while you're a baby plant. You take care of that plant for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then that plant, 6 months later, get to a puppy. And then 6 months later, them 2 you'll be a year clean.
Well, you sped it up there a little bit because it's supposed to be the first year you have a plant. And then the next year you can get a puppy. Right. And then the next year, that's 3 years down the road, you can get a relationship. What do we do that? Do we follow that? No, that's in the movie. And people say that's a really good idea. We don't do that. When we get out of here, we're looking for a good cold beer and a relationship.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. You're exactly right. So become a plant parent. Keep a plant in your office. Place it where it's easy to see for stress relief. Look, some people that works very well. Some people not so much. My wife is a plant person. She's a dog person and a plant person. She has planted we have a circle drive, and she has planted like 10, or she had me plant like 10 of those crepe myrtles.
Right.
And, they're getting really big, and you know what they're good for, right? Getting in the way when you're trying to cut the grass. So I'm out there trying to cut the grass, and I'm trying to go around them and all of that stuff, and it's just, but, if you've got a plant, it's easy for stress relief. Yes, sir.
Use the phone.
You got to take a break and use the phone?
Yeah, call them around.
You couldn't have done that at break.
No, because I had to do it at a certain time.
You just.
I had to follow the rule.
Okay. Yeah. Quite following the rule. In group. 11 o'clock.
They say call it at 10:35.
All right, call her at 10:35. Okay, so keep a plant in your office and place it where it's easy to see for stress relief. I'm going to tell you that works. It works for some people better than other people, and plastic plants don't work. Got to be a living plant. Got to be a live plant. Can't be a plastic plant. Now, I do know that these things are okay, and there's people with every good intention in the world when they bought these plastic trees and stuck them off in here, right? Yeah, they did. But those plants don't work for that type of therapy. Because I don't care how well you care for that plant. How well, how much you talk to it, how much you water it, how much you put plant food and everything in it. It's not going to grow, right? Why is that?
Because it's not real.
It's a dead chunk of plastic, right? So it has to be a real plant. Now here, I think that we could plant some more plants out here in the back and stuff, and let them grow and stuff like that. And I think that would be good for us. But I'm not going to get a plant, put it in my office because we're about to do different things with offices. So anyway, put it in there for stress relief. Tending for and gazing at a small indoor plant can reduce stress during the workday. But you think that's true? Yes, it can be. You know, I tell people all the time to take a 15-minute vacation. Can you take a 15-minute vacation? Of course you can. You just, for a minute, you go sit down in your office, cut all the lights off, and sit there for 15 minutes and just, you have to set a little, because you can't do it forever, because people are paying you to do stuff. You have to do it also, realizing that if you work in a place like this, there's people, and we're not going to say who, but there are people that will just bust off in your office while you're sitting there, I'm on a 15-minute vacation, and they just jerk you right out of your vacation and all of that kind of stuff, and they don't care. I need some cleaning supply. So, and where on earth does it say, where is it written that the cleaning supplies have to be housed in my office? So anyway. That's where it is. So anyway, that's a good idea. If you have the opportunity to do that, and like you were saying, you can get a little live plant down there at Market Basket or at Walmart or at Plant World or Stress Relief Plants for Sale. All of those things. You can go out here and dig one up or something, put it on your deal, and that's going to help us. Right, yeah. And here's the deal. If it helps me, it helps me.
Right.
I've seen people giggle at other people about what helps. That's okay. It helps me. It helps me to exercise. And I get closer to God when I'm exercising. Stuff like that. I thoroughly enjoy that. So if I have something like that, can I turn that into a spiritual situation?
Yeah.
How? How do you do that?
How do you do
it? Yeah.
Because when you take care of something, it makes you feel good.
Okay. Makes me feel good. That's not necessarily spiritual.
I mean, it ain't spiritual, but like when you go cut your grass, when you get through weeding, you go sit on the porch and you look at your lawn, you feel better.
Yeah, that's true. Anytime I accomplish something, I feel better. But when I'm looking at that plant, I can see something that I believe God created. And I'm looking at that thing, just that thing is an important part of the ecosystem that God planted. What do plants do?
Create oxygen.
They create oxygen. We create carbon dioxide. So the plant breathes in the carbon dioxide that I'm breathing out and breathes out what I'm breathing in.
Right.
See, we have a symbiotic relationship. Without plants, wouldn't be any people here. Or wouldn't be any other animals, wouldn't be any of those things, right? So, this one is really good, but you got to make sure you're doing it correctly and you make sure that you're doing it at the right place and at the right time. But it's okay to get a 10-minute massage. Some of those massage houses over there in Houston, you don't want to get a 10-minute massage in there because you could go to jail. But I have a friend of mine who is a massage therapist. And she can give you a massage. It takes longer than that. She has a 30-minute massage and she has a 1 hour massage. And so they cost you about $40 for half an hour, $100 for an hour. But once it's all over with, it's a cleansing massage which gets all of the poisons in your body out of your body. It's an amazing thing. So you'll feel more relaxed, less stressed after receiving a head and neck or neck and shoulder massage. One study found that participants experienced reduced rates of both physiological and psychological stress after 10 minutes of massage. What's a physiological stress?
Relaxation.
Something in your body. Yeah, some stress that's built up in your body. Your neck muscles and all of that stuff can get real stressed out and real tight and all of that stuff, and that gets all of that down. Also, psychological is your mind, right? So it helps your mind to relax and get away from that place where you don't need it to be. So, and that's after a 10-minute massage. And I told you that this lady does an hour-long massage. And I've had a couple of them, and I'm going to tell you, they are really good. And when you're laying there and she's doing all this stuff, she has a way of using her hand that it's like her hand is vibrating. I don't know how that's done, but it's really an amazing thing. And when all of that stress and stuff is leaving your body, both physiologically and psychologically, you can get into a better place with your higher power. You know, when you get all of that, it's all out of there. You're feeling good. And when you get up out of there, she tells you to go and drink at least a quart of water, because all of that stuff is ready to be flushed out of your system. So you drink that quart of water, and then you have to go to the bathroom, and it gets all that stuff out of you.
But it only works if a lady.
Say it again.
I said it only works if a lady.
That's not true. That's sexist and not true. Well, that's up to you. I've had her partner is a young man who's done some really good massages on my neck and shoulders and stuff. And it's not about the sex of the person doing it. It's about the skill of the person doing it. Well, see, I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you the number. Well, one of them is a lady that does it, and she doesn't do it like that. But there's one of them that's a lady that does it, and the other one is a guy that does it. But I'm gonna get you a number. Are they fighting in the counselor's office?
Yeah.
Sound like they fight. So the next one is have a macho latte. I don't know. Look, it's actually green tea. Drinking matcha green tea can lead to feeling less stress. It doesn't have to be that type of tea. Okay, it can be green tea, it can be just a glass of tea, it can be a cup of coffee, it can be something just to allow you to sit for a minute. We all need to take that little break every now and then to help us get to that place where we're letting the stress die and everything is looking a little bit better in our life. Okay, so you can get one of these, or you can do something else. Researchers found that mice who consume some type of tea or coffee or something like that experience reduced anxiety in their life.
Free radicals.
Yeah, getting rid of some free radicals and things like that. I have some tea that's called throat coat tea. Y'all ever heard of that? It's a type of tea that's called throat coat tea, and it's supposed to help for people who do a lot of talking. And as y'all know, I talk a lot. So usually I try to stay a little quiet on Saturdays, but I talk 7 days a week. You know, I do this 2 hours a day, and then Sundays I'm preaching. And so the throat coat, it doesn't taste very well, so you put honey in it, and you drink that, and then sit around, and it's a pretty good. Gives you an opportunity to relax and feel better. Lets the stress of the day go away. So, that's a good idea. One of the things is that we need to get a hold of. This is something I teach to couples. It says stress less with your partner. Stress less with the person that you have decided to live your life with. When faced with a stressful situation, have your significant other present to help you ease your anxiety. If I'm anxious, if I'm stressful, the person that I have decided to spend my life with, if I can get that person to sit with me and talk with me for a while, that will usually lower my stress level. and my anxiety. My wife and I try to, how often do you think, and we've talked about this, but how often do you think couples talk? How many?
Not very often.
How long during an average week do couples have a convert? Not very often is not a number.
Probably like
75%.
probably like 10 hours a week.
10 hours a week. Anybody else?
No, they talk longer.
They talk longer than 10 hours a week.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
12 maybe.
12 hours maybe. Well, as research shows that the average American couple talk 15 minutes over a 7-day period. They have 15 minutes of conversation over a 7-day period.
I think they got.
Well, that doctor you got, maybe they should go out and walk. That's the average, and that's one of the reasons that the number one reason for divorce in the United States is what?
Communication.
Lack of communication. He don't talk to me. Yes, I did. I told her last week I was hungry. So we need to get to a place where we are, my wife and I, knowing those statistics, we will cut the television off and we will sit and talk to one another for at least 30 minutes every night. We used to do it 30 minutes every morning and then 30 minutes every night, but I go to work before she gets out of bed, so that's not helpful. That's not going to happen.
It's because when I ask her if she's thirsty, she gives me a whole explanation why she's thirsty from the minute she wakes up. And I'm saying, do you want something to drink or not? I don't need a whole explanation. That's why I cut it to 15 minutes.
Why is that?
I just asked if you were thirsty.
What I can't stand about females is this. You ask them a basic, simple, yes or no question. But like he said, they give you an entire story.
Every single time.
Instead of saying, yes, I'm hungry. I would like something to eat. Or yes, I'm thirsty. I would like something to drink.
So why is that?
Because
why is that?
Women don't fit, well, okay, not all women, let me rephrase that, okay? Because, how can I say it, like,
Baby, you bored and shit, you got nothing to say.
Women sometimes like to complicate things, make things more complicated than what it actually is.
This is why y'all get divorced a whole lot. Because this is what you're not understanding. Just exactly what you said is true. Men are basic and simple. We're basic and simple. Women are much more complicated. We are Model A Ford. We're a Model A Ford, and they're brand new Cadillacs. Ain't nothing like. See, and we can get together as a bunch of guys and usually never say a word to one another. But when we do, we can scratch and grunt, and we got the gist of what's going on. That's it. Women want to communicate on a higher level than we even have we don't even know how to do that. We need to make the effort. So when you're there, when you get with that person that you want to, you get with them, and when you're facing a stressful situation, you have your significant other to help ease that. If your partner is unavailable, you visualize him or her simply thinking of a significant other as comparable positive effects on blood pressure and stress reactivity. That's an amazing thing. You can just think about the person that you truly love. And let me say this before I get in trouble. If you really love somebody, you ought to be seriously willing to talk to that person. And I talk to people all the time, and always they don't communicate with me. The guy got no idea. We have different brains. Our brains are compartmentalized. We have little boxes where all of our stuff is in. Women's brains are more like spaghetti. They're going all the time like this. When they say we want to talk about something, we have to go to that box, pull it out, talk about it, and put it back. It's laborious for us to think about stuff and have to discuss things. Because like you said, we're basic and we're simple.
That's why you gotta have an animal.
Got to have an animal. So, yes, sir.
All I want to say, Rock Gavin, sound like ain't nobody spending quality time with this.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Because it's like
Not spending quality time.
It's just
Got
me.
to do it.
It's just me.
And
I mean, if I'm gonna go to the refrigerator, give me something to drink, they're gonna give me something to drink on something bad. Or either, why do you ask your wife, are you different? Is she hungry? If she hungry, she not get up to me. Go say, baby, what do you want to eat today? She has nobody's cook. You know what I'm saying?
Take a walk.
You know.
take,
I don't get
and that's all true.
Child when you say something. You know.
That's all true. It boils down to taking, if you really love the person, you're going to take the time to take the time. And the same thing is true for your higher power. We really, truly, deeply love our higher power when we got to have some help. But on a day-to-day basis, yes, back in the back. Okay.
So you said you were stung by a bee
Sir?
on your vacation?
Walk. In the yard. In the yard. Fix the
Yeah,
trash.
it was about between the nap you were having there. No, yeah. I was talking about the wasp. What about it?
You said you were stung by a wasp in your arm?
No, right here. No.
Oh, okay.
That's it?
That's it.
You just want to know where I was stung by a wasp.
No, I heard you were stung by some animal. I heard
Yeah.
that. But you were stung.
I knew it wasn't an alligator.
All I want to say is Dr. True. It's just me. You know, you're supposed to cater to you.
You do?
You
Well-
know, give with somebody's calling it's you and yours, because when you put in your mind, you rather be catered to than someone else.
But somebody else will cater to you.
Well, let me share this with you real quickly. I disagree with that because Mr. Roberts said we're supposed to cater.
I didn't say
But
that.
here's the
I
deal.
said me.
Well, that's fine. Here's the deal. I think that it's a two-way street.
It works both ways.
It works both ways. If you're catering to your wife or your girlfriend or whatever all the time and she's not reciprocating, that makes for a poor relationship. So the last thing we have, but see, that also shows us that we're waiting on God to cater to us. We have to have a relationship with Him if we're going to expect Him to move on our behalf. Just screaming at God, yelling at God for help when we're sinking. We should have been talking to Him when the motorboat was running well.
Right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I got something. See, the problem is with women and men. In my mama's house and my dad's house, my dad would seem like he was the boss. Right?
Yeah.
But my mama was really the boss. My mama controlled the money, paid the bills. Now, when it comes right before daddy go outside, he's boss.
Well, all of those things,
54 years.
all of those things, we're coming back to the point. If you love someone,
Right.
even just thinking about them is going to help lower our stress level.
Right.
No matter what somebody else is doing, that should help us. So the very last thing is LOL. Frequent laughter seems to be a buffer for stress. People who laugh a lot experience fewer stress-related symptoms. Researchers found that the more somebody laughed, the less they would feel stressed.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Have you read the book Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? And another question is, are you okay with the stuff?
Am I okay with my stomach? Yeah, my stomach. It still itches a little bit down here, so I think I got a allergic reaction to it because it shouldn't. No, I have not read that book. I read important books, and that's not an important book.
Yeah.
Because we know
That's like goofy, stupid book. I don't read
we
stuff.
know who the boss is.
I do have. Look, I have 7 books in print. 7 books in print, and I'll bet you $1 against a dozen dimes. Ain't none of y'all ever bought my book, read my book, or anything like that.
Right.
So, yeah, one of the titles, one of the ones I like the best is Old Jack One-Eye and Other Short Stories. That's a good book, man. Y'all look it up when you get on the computer. Look it up. It's Dr. Herschel Garner's books, and they'll all pop up there, and you can buy them.
And most houses, who be the boss?
Man, you're stuck.
I'm
You're
mad
stuck.
for
That
you
does
to
not
leave.
matter. It has nothing